Happy Saturday, folks. Hope you're doing well. Question of the week was, do you believe the polls? That has been the topic because, well, some group of people showed up at a rally wearing paraphernalia and had signs that says, do you believe the polls? And this was a pearl-clutching moment for the mainstream media. They made sure to cover it ad nauseum, saying, oh man, people are doubting the polls. People are going to doubt the election. People are going to start being election deniers. And then the next day, all the media started asking the party leaders, are you going to accept the results of the election? That question has never, ever been asked in our country, in our election processes, ever. Never, ever has ever happened. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure never happened. And here we are, liberals and the mainstream media bringing American-style politics north of the border because a group of 5 people had signs and shirts that says, asking the question, do you believe the polls? And we're going to get into that to a degree today. And as well, we're going to talk about what we talked about yesterday. Mark Carney taking his 3-day break. And the thing I warned would happen is exactly what is happening. Media is laying it on thick and absolutely burying Carney. And it's going to be a long, long, long weekend for Mr. Mark Carney until he is brave enough to get in front of the cameras once again. And then that with Pierre Poilievre puts his foot down and makes his stances very clear on how he wants to progress forward and represent Canada as a prime minister. But before we do that, please take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out, especially when we're in such a tight election period at the moment and things are kind of wild. It's always good to be able to help get that voice amplified to other parts of the internet so the other side of the argument can also be presented to people and they can make a well-informed decision this election. But anyways, let's get into the story. Do you believe the polls? And this was actually a very good segment on CBC that took place. Laurie Turnbull, as it says here, is a professor of political science at Dalhousie University. And quite frankly, leans left, but from the people that we know and people that have talked to her and deal with her here in the city, characterize her as someone who's very fair, fairly honest. And it doesn't surprise me that we see this conversation happening on CBC and she's in the middle of it having a very fair and honest opinion about it. As we've said, mainstream media have been covering that question. Do you believe the polls? And the whole narrative and rhetoric is conservatives are just going to be election deniers. They just don't believe anything. They don't believe their institutions. They're going to tear down the fabric of our country. That's the narrative, right? So that question comes up on this CBC show, and Laurie gives a very comprehensive and nuanced answer that you would imagine from, I don't know, a normal person.
The polls, the Liberals have maintained a pretty consistent lead over the Conservatives for the past few weeks, and some suggesting the gap is narrowing slightly. And of course, we have seen polls get it wrong before. A very notable example is what happened between Trump and Hillary Clinton, and Trump versus Kamala Harris not so long ago. Is there a possibility, and certainly this would be what the Conservatives are hoping for and perhaps talking about, that there is a portion of the voting public that pollsters aren't reaching and that we could see a surprise, a blue wave perhaps?
100%. I mean, it's certainly possible. It's happened before that as meticulous as pollsters will be, and even though we have, poll after poll and not only different pollsters, but also, like longitudinal sorts of things like poll every day, poll every couple of days that keep giving certain results. There definitely could be, something out there that isn't being picked up by the polls. I think we did see that happen in the American election where there was a base of support for Trump that didn't seem to be communicated to the polls. There was an indication in the polls that would be a very close race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And then come election night, it wasn't close at all. So these things can only, get so much. It's not an election, it's a poll. And also, when we're looking at those popular vote numbers, they're not telling us what the results are going to be in every riding either. Like there are seat projections, some of them do seat projections, but that popular vote number, it's as popular support, that's not even popular vote, that doesn't tell you how things are going to translate into seats.
Imagine that. A logical, thoughtful response to what we're seeing with the polls. And could it potentially not translate to what happens on election day? Yes. Yet, however, conservative supporters ask, can we trust these polls? And all of a sudden, they're election deniers. All of a sudden, they're un-Canadian. All of a sudden, they're going to start tearing up the fabric of our country. That is the fear-monger when you get from the mainstream media and these shows with Rosemary Barton, David Cochrane, and so on. That is the question that people keep having. That's the coverage you'll get from the CBC. And it was nice to see at least one glimmering, bright aspect on CBC where they have a good conversation of like, all right, will the polls actually translate into results? We've seen it before, they haven't. Could that happen here? And Lori gives a pretty thoughtful response here. And actually, there wasn't anything inflammatory about it. There wasn't anything that was even all that newsworthy of it. It was just a very plain vanilla answer. But the reason why it's catching news is because, well, it was an honest answer. Like, that's where we're currently at in our political discourse in this country. Someone gives a thoughtful, honest answer and tries their best to be as neutral as they can be, even though they have their political leanings. That is catching the eye of many. And so when someone says to you or throws criticisms at you for simply questioning the polls, don't let them do it. Keep asking the question and keep having thoughtful, nuanced debate about these issues. I'm wondering, will we see that on election day? And sometimes the debate isn't even worth it. Just say, you know what? We'll see what happens election day. Best of luck to you. But as I said yesterday, Mark Carney went into hiding for 3 days because, well, he's not campaigning. It's not looking good for Mark Carney. It's not looking great. And what was I going to say? Because he ticked off the media, he went after one of them, and then they went after him and exposed all the Chinese issues that they've been hiding in favor of him for the past couple of weeks. Well, they released it all. And then he went into hiding for 3 days, and this was just going to lead to an absolute barrage by the media because you just don't screw them over. And that's exactly what Michael Barrett stitched together all the media outlets after Mark Carney refused to talk to them and went into hiding. Here he goes.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Okay. Reporters trying to get more questions in and hoping answers will come, but very few did.
Prime Minister didn't provide much of an update. Canada still faces U.S. tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos, and is retaliating. Nothing changed for Canada when Donald Trump paused global reciprocal tariffs earlier this week.
Canada's tariff situation remained unchanged, and Prime Minister Carney had nothing to say about any changes to Canada's counter-tariff strategy.
We were hoping for so much more from Mark Carney, but remind us, what did we just hear?
I am struck by his not taking questions.
No questions were taken today. Now, Liberals will tell you that they like it when Carney gets to play the role of Prime Minister rather than campaigning leader. And
around the same time that Mark Carney left without taking questions, a GM plant in Ingersoll, Ontario was pausing production, citing slumping sales.
It's not looking good for the Carney campaign. It's going to be a long, long weekend. And that's exactly what we're witnessing. We have auto plants that are pausing operations. We have no nuance to our tariff strategy with the United States. No thought has been put into that at all. It's been always just, we're going to keep fighting because that's really all he has and can't really campaign on anything else. And then additionally, the point that people are making is the Liberals like to play this tool, and the incumbent gets to play this, especially at this point when they're dealing with tensions with other countries as we were having an election, is he can pause his campaign and go back into, I'm going to play Prime Minister now because that's when I can drum up the fear about playing Prime Minister against Donald Trump in the United States. That's when I get a surge in the polls. So we're gonna ignore all the crap happening with China because I screwed that one out, and I'm gonna start playing Prime Minister and start talking to the people, but not really talk to them. Just say, we're working on it. Bye bye. See ya. I'm going on vacation. That's what you're currently getting from Mark Carney. And then, as I said, this is all the talk that has been on the airwaves in this country. And CTV, Vashi Kapelos, has a conservative commentator on to discuss this very issue, and well, his take on it was quite interesting.
She came back. She was just on set with me, saying like everyone there was kind of like, "Huh? What's going on?" What is your read on what has sort of, I guess, unfolded, and if such a sort of suspension was actually necessary?
Well, the biggest advantage that Mr. Carney has in this election campaign is that he's the Prime Minister of Canada, and he gets to use and speak from the pulpit of the Prime Minister of Canada every time he goes out. But it's amazing, right? The Liberals love prorogation, whether it's a prorogation of Parliament or whether it's a prorogation of their campaign. But I said this last week, and I guess we're going to keep saying this until the end of the campaign. The Liberal strategy basically amounts to hide Mark Carney and hope and pray that Donald Trump makes the news in one way or another. It's been pretty lucky so far, but I think they've recognized what conservatives have recognized and what Canadians have recognized, which is Mark Carney sucks in front of a camera. He's not great, whether he's telling journalists to look inside themselves, whether he's repeating Justin Trudeau's line to the Globe and Mail by saying that you shouldn't believe things that are written in the Globe and Mail only for photographs to be produced shortly afterwards with him with figures that are associated with the Chinese Communist Party. Point is, the guy, the more people see of him, the more he's in front of journalists, it's clear that he hasn't spent a lot of time doing this. Liberal strategists aren't any less intelligent than I or conservative strategists are. I think they've correctly identified that. And they've realized that it's a safer bet for them at this point in the campaign to bunker the guy, have him look prime ministerial, have him give a 1-minute statement to journalists that says absolutely nothing. Because, quite frankly, there's no reason that his campaign should have been suspended today, other than the fact that they believe that him campaigning for an additional day would have been detrimental to their cause.
And that's exactly what we're watching. Hide him, bunker him, make sure he doesn't talk to anybody because this guy stinks in front of a camera. And right now, this CCP issue is gotten lit up. And thanks to Robert Fife and the Globe and Mail, you should have left their names out of your mouth, Mark Carney, because they were protecting you. They were running cover for you. And then you went after them. And now they're exposing you. And Robert Fife released a secondary article yesterday saying Liberal Canada accepted invitation from China to celebrate People's Liberation Army event. Oh, man. You know the person they replaced Paul Chang with? Well, this is that man. And, oh, baby, the connections to the CCP and China, it's looking a little rough. It's looking a little rough for the homies. And this is the onslaught we are going to be continuing to witness this weekend. As you're watching The Master, as you're trying to enjoy your life, the media is going to be going in overdrive, continue to flood the TV stations with this story and more of it because they're upset with him and that he's disappeared. And the other thing that the media's been upset with is Pierre Poilievre. Surprise, surprise, we know this. One thing they've been really upset with lately is the fact he only allows 4 questions at his press conferences. That's been the big talk. Oh, he only allows 4 questions. That's so unfair. No follow-ups. There's so much control. La, 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 la. Again, people can have their gripes about it. They can debate if it's an issue, and some people can be critical of it. That's okay. That is allowed. But CBC finally got a question on his presser, I believe it was yesterday. And, well, this was the question they decided to ask.
Hi there, Marina von Stackelberg with CBC News. Stephen Harper's former director of communications says, quote, blowing a 25-point lead and being 10 points down is campaign malpractice at the highest level. Is it campaign malpractice?
No, I answered that question 2 weeks ago. Liberals and lobbyists want me to stop talking about high food prices. Well, I'm not going to do that because single mothers shouldn't be going to bed hungry, worried about how they're going to feed their kids in the morning. They want me to stop talking about the doubling housing costs during the lost Liberal decade. I'm not going to stop talking about that. They want me to stop talking about the rampaging crime that's overtaking our streets and the overdose crisis Liberals caused that has taken the lives of 50,000 people. I will not stop talking about that either. After the lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime and a falling economy under America's thumb, we can't afford a 4th Liberal term. We need a change with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, build homes, unleash our resources, lock up criminals, and bring home a safe, affordable country for our people. Thank you.
And the question there was referring to a Conservative strategist who, as they said, worked on Stephen Harper's campaign and also led Doug Ford's most recent election campaign. And he's been going on mainstream media lately and absolutely burying the Conservatives lately. And people are wondering why. What's going on? Why does he keep doing this? And it's just kind of been weird behavior and something that we're currently tracking because it just reads as what we've been hearing. Doug Ford wants to replace Pierre Poilievre as leader of the federal Conservative Party. We cannot have that. That would be disastrous for the party. But Doug Ford's right-hand guy is making sure to absolutely bury the Conservatives as best as he can so that they can make way for Doug Ford to be able to take over leadership. And I have a feeling that's exactly what's happening. But this was a perfect answer to that BS. And saying, this is a distraction, man. They want me to stop talking about boom, 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 boom. The stuff that people really care about. And then again, the criticism of that is like, why is he so sharp? Why is he so hurt? Couldn't he just be more prime ministerial? Couldn't he just be more leader-like? It's unbecoming of a leader. And well, that question was asked of Poilievre in a more intimate interview. And this was his answer to that of why he gets like this.
I think it's probably because I believe very strongly in what I say and what I'm fighting for. I do get frustrated when I see people in positions of power doing damage to the lives of good people. When I see, when I see that, an entire generation can't afford a place to live, and I know this is entirely the result of political and bureaucratic decisions. This is not an accident. It's not a problem that fell out of the sky. I have an intense desire for those people who caused the problem to be held accountable for it. And, you know, there are places in the world where politicians all get along. They're not nice places. They're terrible places, right? There are places in the world where there's only one political party. They're very nonpartisan in the sense that they're all in the same party. And people flee from those places. So, you know, if you have to choose between a place where political debate gets a little heated once in a while and a place where there is no political debate, I know which one I'm choosing.
He lays it out pretty simple there. And I loved him talking about what other countries are like when they don't have partisan debates, where they are kind of one big uniparty. They're not nice places, not places you want to be. And so if you're going to come after me for wanting to challenge the establishment, want to challenge the common narrative, then so be it. But places where freedom can reign, ideas can flourish, debate can be had, are the places that people are fleeing to, not fleeing from. And I love that he broke that down. That's probably the best explanation I've seen from him when that question gets asked of him, because it was personal, it made sense, and I was like, yeah, that's actually a great point. Those aren't nice places when autocrats essentially take over. But anyways, enjoy your Saturday. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.